So, I'm going to present something today a little out there, but just stick with me because I'm testing this theory right now, but I actually think I'm going to prove it to be right. So, I think on my social media the other day I was getting a little cranky and tired, and I think I said something like, "Oh, well, I guess the moon is in a nakshatra that it doesn't like." And I think I've shared here and on my social media that, I've had struggles with my mental health over the years. And so I just had one of these episodes the other day. And now I'm in the process of really mapping out these nakshatras, which are, I think they last maybe around a day. So it's where the moon moves around, and these different nakshatras it moves through. Each of these nakshatras are ruled by a planet. And it's my understanding that if you don't have a planet, like say the moon is moving through a, a nakshatra where you don't have a natal planet there, then probably it's not going to get activated. So you're really not going to have to worry about any of the nakshatras unless you have a planet in there. And in Vedic astrology, they don't count Pluto and they don't count Chiron, but they count Rahu and Ketu, and then just your regular, Saturn, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Sun, Moon, Mercury. Did I say Venus? Yeah. So that's kind of the premise, is that things as the moon moves through these different nakshatras, then different things are activated. And so I'm mapping all this out, and then it's starting to kind of click in my head, because I have struggled with my mental health over the years. Now, I'm not saying this is everybody's mental health answer or anything, or the cause or anything. I'm just saying, for me, this is starting to make sense. Because when I was younger, I had just so much chaos in my life all the time. And I blamed everything on this external noise that was happening when I would go through these things. And then as I got older, I blamed it on my hormones, obviously, because when these things happen, I'll call them episodes. They're very cyclical, and they have like a hard start and a hard stop. And so I am thinking that would make sense with your hormones, right? But at my age now, I'm starting to rule that out, because I just don't think that's it. I don't think that ever was. So a little bit about these episodes. Usually it starts with me being irritable, angry. Then there's kind of a lull. Then there might be a little spike of happiness. And then it really descends into the darkness. And that darkness usually lasts for about 24 hours, which is weird, because that's usually a day or so that a moon spends in one of these nakshatras. So the darkness is really dark. It's the kind of darkness where you feel like you don't have control and you need to get out. And yes, like you want to not be here anymore. And in the past, I have taken some substantial steps toward that, but I'm not there anymore. I'm able to at least just sit through it. Now, I may have some thoughts, but there's no action involved with it. But they're still very painful. I feel, you're out of control. This comes over you, and it is like just darkness and painful. And then it's just like someone flipped off a light switch. So then it's just like gone. And then there's a little, because I have some other stuff going on, then there's a little bit of, maybe, I don't know what you would call it, maybe like manic stuff that happens after that. And then if I'm right, then I should have a real period here of about like 8 or 9 days of really nothing happening. So let me explain why I think this is the case. Let me get my sheet of paper here. I'll put it up on the screen, but when the moon is moving into this certain nakshatra, I have Mars in there. So that's my natal Mars is in this nakshatra that the moon will move through. Now, this nakshatra is actually ruled by Mars. So that makes total sense why I get irritated, agitated, angry during this time period. So that tracks. Now, then it moves into a nakshatra that I have no planets. I have no natal planets there. So nothing really going on. So that was kind of that lull I was talking about. And then I might have a little bit of a spike in maybe like feeling good or feeling nostalgic or something like that, because the moon then moves into a nakshatra that is ruled by Jupiter, but my natal moon is also there too. And so I feel like it's not super bad, but it could be, I guess, emotional, we'll say. And then it moves in. So here's where the darkness shows up. So then it moves in to a nakshatra that is ruled by Saturn. And guess what? My natal Saturn is in that nakshatra. And that's when the real heavy darkness shows up. And then, just like I said, it's like flipping a light switch. As soon as that ends, it goes into a nakshatra that I don't have any planets, so it shouldn't be activated. So I could be kind of back to normal for a little bit. And then it heads into another nakshatra where it's ruled by Ketu, but Rahu is in there. And during this time, so what I experienced recently with this is that, and I have experienced these over my, and again, I blamed them on my hormones or whatever, but it's just this, you can't sleep. You're just laying there wide awake. You feel like your body's kind of buzzing. And that's what I experienced the other day. And then I realized it was during this period. So I'm not sure what to do with all these things right now. But right now, I'm just tracking them so that hopefully down the line, I could potentially mitigate this, or at least, I guess, have an idea of when this is going to happen so you can plan accordingly, you know? And so now my, or the moon will be moving through a bunch of nakshatras where I have no planets. And so I should have some smooth sailing coming up. And then I'm going to do another video because probably in about 9 days or so, it'll run into my ascendant. Oh, and that's another thing I was going to say. This is my theory. And again, I don't have the data to back this up yet, but that's what I'm gathering. But the theory is that I am very much affected by the moon, where I didn't know that before. I don't know. I guess I don't feel that. And so I don't feel necessarily attached to the moon or anything. So I just didn't really pay that much attention to it. But now what I'm thinking is I am very much affected by the moon. Because I just had a comment too. And in some Vedic, not all that I've read, but in some Vedic astrology, they do consider your ascendant, your rising sign, to be your sign, not your sun sign. So my rising sign is in Cancer, and Cancer is ruled by the moon. So the moon, they would consider me a Cancer, and a moon would be like super important to me and to my, whole entire chart. So since this is the lunar, these are the nakshatras. It's a lunar calendar basically. And my theory is that my moon in just my natal chart is unhappy. It doesn't like being in the house it's in. It doesn't like being in the sign it's in. So I'm thinking that since my moon is so weak, that then when it encounters some of these other more stronger, like Saturn and Mars, it just sort of crumbles. That's my theory. That's the best way I can describe it right now, but I'm actually really excited to track through this. And if anybody else does this, let me know, because I'm very interested in what you found out if you're tracking your nakshatras. So again, like when the moon runs into, since my moon is so weak and since I'm so affected by the moon, when it runs into Mars, it runs into a nakshatra that is not only ruled by Mars, but has my natal Mars in it. There'll be some issues. And then when it runs into that Saturn in my natal chart, in the nakshatra that's ruled by Saturn, it just sort of crumbles. And this is just very interesting to me. So I'm gonna post more about this, obviously, and then I'm going to do another video once I make it through some of my other planets. So I've got my ascendant coming up in about 9 days. I've got Jupiter coming up, and then the part where I think I might have some trouble. Well, my natal Jupiter is in a nakshatra ruled by Ketu. So I don't know what's going to happen there. But I really wish I would have known this earlier. Again, with this very painful struggle that you go through, and it's also a struggle for the people in your life, because my two boys, this was probably very hard for them. I didn't at the time know how to explain this, and they were probably just looking at me like, what is happening? Like, she's going bananas, or she's I don't know, she's down so far, I don't know what's happening. And then all of a sudden, like, it was just like somebody flipped a switch and I was back to normal. And I wish I had this knowledge to say to the people in my life, in a couple of hours, things are going to get really ugly. So don't pay any attention to me. Try to just steer clear. Don't engage. Don't take anything personally. And we'll get through this the best we can. And then let's plan something fun for maybe like 24 to 48 hours later. I'm thinking this is going to be life-changing for me, because that's another thing I've done too. Like when I was younger, like I said, a lot of chaos, a lot of noise. Now doing this soul contract work that I talk about all the time, I have changed my life so much. I've eliminated all the noise. And at some point, like I said, you have to eliminate the hormones, and then you're still left with this. So this is the thing that's making sense to me. And although I get a lot of peace every single day, I tell myself, by doing the soul contract work, every single day I tell myself, I'm doing exactly what my soul wants me to do. And then just this like feel of peace comes over me, because I know that to be the case. So if I've done all this work and I'm feeling so peaceful, why am I still having these episodes, as we say? And I think this is why. And as soon as I figure out if I'm right, then I'm going to figure out how to hopefully mitigate this. And I don't know if I can get it to go away altogether, but I'm going to figure out a way to make it better. So again, if you track your nakshatras, or, eventually I'll have way more information on this. If you maybe are thinking, gosh, this might be something I struggle with too. And again, I'm not saying everybody does, but I think it's kind of a perfect storm with me because of this whole moon situation. So more to come, but let me know if you have any questions, or if you do this too.